The shirt on your back is oil. The pill in your medicine cabinet is oil. The sunscreen smeared on your face is oil. And honestly, none of that is the scary part. The scary part is this. If oil vanished tomorrow, all 8 billion of us start panicking inside 72 hours. Not because the cars stop, because the food stops. Modern agriculture runs on synthetic fertilizer and pesticides, and 100% of that chain traces back to crude. Pull the plug, and global food output collapses to a fraction of what feeds us today. The math just doesn't work for 8 billion mouths. That's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Oil isn't a luxury we indulge in. It's the load-bearing wall of modern civilization, and there is no emergency exit. 1973, Fourth Arab-Israeli War kicks off. Arab oil producers get fed up with Western support for Israel, and they pull the plug, full embargo on Western nations. 5 months. That's how long it took for the world's most powerful country to end up with its own citizens crying in line at gas stations. Supermarket shelves stripped bare. The government slapped speed limits on the highways. They literally told Americans how many lights they could leave on inside their own houses. Picture that. The #1 superpower on Earth, getting dragged across the floor by a barrel of black liquid. If that's not absurd, I don't know what is. Now here's where it gets weirder. The thing that runs the entire world? Nobody actually knows for sure where it comes from. Your textbook will tell you oil is dead dinosaurs and ancient plants, squeezed for hundreds of millions of years until they turned into goo. Clean story, easy to remember. There's just one problem. Vietnam has a giant oil field called White Tiger. It bankrolled the country's exports for decades. When scientists drilled into it, they hit something that didn't fit the script. The oil was sitting inside granite. Granite is igneous rock. It's never supposed to host oil deposits. The biogenic theory has no clean explanation for this, and it's been one of the unresolved arguments in geology for decades. So here's the question that won't go away. What if oil isn't the leftover juice of ancient creatures at all? What if the Earth itself is just cooking it continuously? In that case, every country fighting over oil, every analyst yelling, "We've got 30 years left," every glossy map of proven reserves, they might all be staring at the wrong picture entirely. After the Soviet Union collapsed, a stack of files got declassified, and inside was something that made Western geologists really uncomfortable. Starting in the 1950s, Soviet scientists had been quietly working on a theory that oil isn't biological at all. They believed it was being manufactured deep inside the Earth, like the planet running its own slow-motion refinery in its gut. They used that theory to drill in places where, by Western logic, there shouldn't be a single drop. They hit oil, then they pumped it for decades, quietly, with almost no announcement. And here's the kicker. Some old American oil fields that were declared dead, fully tapped out, written off, got remeasured years later, and the reserves had somehow gone up. Nobody has a good explanation. And nobody really wants to scream about it from a rooftop. Because if oil is effectively unlimited, the entire pricing logic of global energy collapses overnight. The countries sitting on top of those deserts, holding the rest of the world by the wallet, their leverage drops to zero. Oil is the biggest business on the planet. And the way I read it, the people running that business have never been thrilled about you finding out whether the product is actually scarce. But forget where it comes from for a minute. The real shock is how many things one barrel of crude can become. It looks like cheap soy sauce when you pour it out. Burning it raw is a total waste. Push it through a refinery's distillation tower, those skinny giants you see when you drive past industrial coastlines, and suddenly you understand why humans go to war over this stuff. At the very top, the lightest fraction comes off as LPG. That's the cooking gas that 2.1 billion households use every single day. Step down a level and you hit gasoline. Most people assume gasoline is basically what oil is for. Wrong. Gasoline is only about 20% of a barrel. The other 80% is doing something else entirely. Below that, there's a fraction most people have literally never heard of. Naphtha. Naphtha is the secret ingredient of modern life. Your polyester shirt? Naphtha. The plastic bag from the grocery store? Naphtha. The capsule shell on your cold medicine? Naphtha. Lipstick. Foundation. Probably half the things you'll touch today started life as that one greasy slice of the barrel. It just never shows up in the news. Keep going down. Jet fuel. Kerosene grade. Feeds roughly 100,000 commercial flights a day worldwide. People sometimes ask why planes don't just run on gasoline. The answer is simple. Gasoline in a plane is basically stuffing a few hundred passengers into an oversized lighter and flicking the wheel. Then diesel, the biggest slice of the barrel, over 30%. Tractors in fields, excavators on sites, 10,000-ton cargo ships hauling everything you'll ever buy. Every single item in your nearest supermarket got there with diesel burning behind it. Cut diesel for 3 days, global logistics seizes up. Cut it for a week, the shelves go bare. And at the bottom, settled in the gunk, sits asphalt. Black like mud from hell. That's what every paved road in every city is made of. No asphalt, no roads. No roads, no modern city. That's the real trick. One barrel of black goo, broken apart, covers the entire surface area of modern human life. Now, where's all this stuff coming from? That tiny strip of Middle Eastern desert holds roughly half of global reserves. Venezuela actually has the largest reserves in the world on paper. But their crude is heavy. Gluey? You process it and most of what you get out is asphalt, not the high-margin product. Middle East crude is light and sweet. Refining it gives you premium gasoline and diesel. Top shelf. The brutal part is this. Refineries are built like custom-fitted suits. Each one is engineered for a specific crude blend. Try to swap in a totally different feedstock, and you're looking at retooling tens of billions of dollars of equipment. That's not a hostage situation with a gun. That's a hostage situation with a supply chain. You don't simply change suppliers. You rebuild your entire industrial base. But the deepest cut, the cleverest move oil ever made, isn't around your neck. It's around your wallet. 1944年. World War I isn't even over yet. The US and Saudi Arabia sign a quiet little agreement. Saudi oil gets sold only in US dollars, and in exchange, the US guarantees the security of the Saudi royal family. One sentence. And it dragged the whole planet onto the same set of train tracks. You want oil? You need dollars. You want dollars? You play inside a financial system the US runs. That's the petrodollar. It's not a gun pressed against your head. It's an invisible harness, and nearly every country on Earth is wearing one. Now look at what happens to people who try to slip out of that harness. 2000. Iraq announced it would start selling its oil in euros. 3 years later, US forces rolled in, citing weapons of mass destruction. After the dust cleared, not one of those weapons was ever found. 2009, Gaddafi started pushing the idea of a gold-backed African currency to settle oil deals, bypassed the dollar entirely. 2 years later, NATO bombed Tripoli flat, and Gaddafi died in the street. These aren't conspiracy threads on Reddit. They're documented events with public timelines. So tell me again, does oil really feel like just a fuel to you? Now let's talk about the prophecy that has never come true. People have been saying oil is about to run out since the 1950s. Every couple of decades, another panel wheels out the same headline. At current consumption, we've got 30 years of oil left. 70 years of saying it. And global proven reserves have gone up, not down. The US ran a shale revolution, high-pressure water blasting the rock apart, squeezing out oil that was previously locked away, and went from being the world's biggest importer to the world's biggest producer. Deepwater drilling found massive fields kilometers below the Atlantic. Every time technology takes a step forward, it's like discovering a brand new continent of oil. We're almost out, is the boy who cried wolf. The wolf has never shown up. But here's the honest part. The problem with oil was never really whether we'd run out. The problem is what it costs us to use. 1989年, an oil tanker runs aground off Alaska. 40,000 tons of crude pour into the sea. Hundreds of kilometers of coastline turn black. 250,000 birds die. 3 decades later, scientists are still digging up solid chunks of oil out of the soil. Nature has been working on the cleanup for 30 years and it's still not done. And that's one spill. Meanwhile, the carbon coming off oil combustion is warming the planet. The weather is going sideways more often. And at this point, you don't need a climate scientist to tell you that. You can feel the summers. So can we just walk away from oil? The trendy answer right now is electric cars. And honestly, that answer is half right. EVs solve oil as fuel. They don't touch oil as raw material. The seats inside your shiny new EV are synthetic leather. The dashboard is plastic. The door seals are synthetic rubber. All of it. Oil. Your phone case is plastic. The insulation on your charging cable is oil. The syringes, gloves, and IV bags inside every hospital on Earth, oil. None of these things have a cheap, scalable substitute right now. That's the real twist. Oil stopped being a fuel a long time ago. It's the bedrock raw material of industrial civilization. You can't yank it out. You can only swap it out, piece by piece, over decades. And that's what makes oil terrifying, not the fires, not the wars, not the spills. It's the fact that this stuff is woven into every single pore of human life so deeply you don't even notice it. And you literally cannot survive without it. The world burns through about 100 million barrels every day. That works out to roughly 1,160 barrels every second. Somewhere on Earth, on fire, right now. It hasn't stopped. It's still accelerating. The planet spent hundreds of millions of years saving up that energy. We've blown through most of it in less than a century and turned it into the bloodstream of the modern world. Whenever that barrel really does scrape bottom, and one day, in some form it will, what happens to a civilization that's lost its blood supply? We spent decades thinking oil is about cars and planes. It isn't. It's about whether 8 billion people get to eat. It's the lifeline of everything we built. And nobody, not a single politician, not a single CEO, not a single expert, has given an answer to that question that actually lets you sleep at night.